Welcome to the Spectrum Connection, a podcast hosted by Jess
and Alyce. As two mums of neurodivergent kids, we are here to share our experiences, insights, and advice with other parents navigating this unique journey.
Join us as we discuss everything from daily challenges to breakthrough moments, all with a focus on understanding and celebrating neurodivergence. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this on the podcast because I just find it so fascinating when I watch myself back on podcasts, is that autism is obviously a special interest of both of ours. And I think that I can talk so easily about it. But when I watch myself back, especially in the intros and getting out of the podcast at the end, I just get so awkward and I'm like, I don't know what to say. So this is my intro right now.
Yeah. I feel like I was going to say we need like a script or something, but no, let's not do scripted. Let's just start it awkward every time. And yeah, people can either.
Do you know what I think people would appreciate is that we just head on straight into it, because I feel like people are our people that are listening to this and they're like, just get to the point. There's no need for like small talk at the beginning.
Yeah, so let's get to the point. Self-care for first thing, because I'm just going to be that broken record again. Yeah, I don't think I need to, we're a few episodes in now. I think everyone understands where I'm getting at with that.
I was just looking for a shout out. I forgot to grab one. So I'm going to have a look now and see if I can find someone. And that someone is, oh, pressure, sorry. Help You Cope. Thank you so much for commenting on our reels and supporting our podcast here. Help You Cope is an amazing organization if you want to check it out. Yes. So today we are talking about, just scrolling back, we're talking about embracing home and family life to suit your family instead of what society says.
Yeah,
this is a good one. I like this one. And we've got like everyone's contributions for this as well. So I think we could talk about our little like experiences, I guess, of it. And an interesting comment I got though, when I asked everyone on Instagram what you do to like, what do you think that your family does differently to suit your needs? And then someone wrote everything. I'm like, yeah.
Yes. And do you know what? I think it's a lot of the things that we do day in, day out that we probably don't even realize are different to how other families do them. When I deliver workshops, an example that I come up with all the time that I explain is, in our house, that whenever I use a noisy appliance, like a vacuum cleaner or a blender or something, I always let everyone know in the house before I'm going to use it. I just give that automatically, hey guys, loud noise is going to happen, and give them opportunity to go into another room or get their headphones or whatever they feel they need to do. Sometimes they're okay with the noise or they just want to cover their ears, but I just have automatically given that. It just comes naturally. And I didn't even actually realize I did that until my now 3-year-old, where was she? She was 2. She turned 2 and she got a kitchen set for her second birthday, and it had a blender in it that you actually pressed and blended. And before she pressed the button, she said, "Loud noise, everyone, loud noise." And I was like, oh my goodness. She's grown up just thinking that's what everyone does. You alert your house when you're going to put all.
To some point, you should be doing those things, I feel like, in society.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking like other families probably just use blenders. I'm guessing I'm not a neurotypical family, but I'm guessing neurotypical family just switch on a blender and use it and not give it a second thought because no one's really sensitive to the noise. Yeah. Like people can just move on with their morning like nothing happened. But for families like ours, that could be, disastrous.
Yeah, there could be so many things that we do that I'm just like not conscious of. One thing that's huge in our house that honestly like shocks people when they walk into our house. We don't get many visitors, but when they do come in, I'm so used to the way that we live now that I don't even like pre-predict what typical people walking in are going to say or do about our situation. But for one like amount of time we didn't have a couch in our living room. We have a swing installed in the middle of our living room, and that's basically what our living room is. We don't have a TV, we don't have anything. And so when you walk straight into our house, there's a swing and no couch, so like people can't really sit down anywhere. And so
They
they
can.
walk
They can
in.
swing if they choose.
Don't you? Doesn't everyone want to swing? No, I. And they walk in, and I just go about my day, and then all of a sudden, I see them like staring at the swing, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I forgot this is not like a typical thing that you would see. We have a swing here, and it's been so great for us. And we have since brought a couch back into that room, but for a long time we didn't have a couch, and like people would just be like, how? And I'm like, well, everyone in our family loves being on their beds, so we don't
Yeah.
sit on the couch, and we needed the space for our swing. So,
Yeah. Now, I have a question. Since you've reintroduced that couch, is there a whole launch off the swing into the couch scenario happening?
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've pictured. Yeah,
It's
that's what my
almost
kids.
more dangerous, but we'll see how it goes. Yes, like when people come in, it's almost like I don't even think of that shock that they would have. A little girl
Yeah.
came to our door and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you have a swing in your living room." And I'm like, "Yeah, we must be the
And she's
coolest
going home
people
and
ever."
demanding a swing in her living room now, her bedroom.
And Jazz, like, she'll go to school and talk about it. And I'm like, I'll say to her, like, other kids don't really have that in their living rooms. And she's like, that's just our norm. Like, we have three swings in our
Yeah,
house, one in Jacob's room, one in her room, and one in the living room.
yeah,
And it serves its purpose. It helps
yeah,
support my kids, which is the best thing ever.
yeah,
I think it's interesting, like having outsiders' perspectives on our houses. Like we probably don't see it as much as they do. Like what's different about it?
yeah. And I
Um,
think for a long time, like I think back to my early parenting days and even early diagnosis days, still trying to get my head around everything and learning, like so much of my time was around trying to get the kids to do what other families do. Like, everyone needs to sit at the dining table and eat dinner and not like, and I spent so much time trying to make that happen and putting accommodations in to make that happen, like, wobble cushions on the chairs and all I've lost count of all the things I've tried until I just got to the point one day I'm like, why am I stressed about this? Like, and I start looking at everything. Okay, what is the goal of this, aspect of family life? So, for instance, eating. What is the goal at dinner time? Well, the goal at dinner time is that everyone's fed. So, does it matter that everyone's at the table? Does it matter where people eat, what they eat? Like, it does not matter, really. At the end of the day, I want my children to eat. And I need them to eat because if they don't eat, then they can't go to sleep because they're tired, like they're still hungry. And all these flow and effects, behaviors come about when children aren't fed. Like,
yeah.
get to the goal of what you're doing things for and eliminate all the barriers to make that goal happen. And life is so much easier. And
It's
yeah, it's
interesting that you
hard though, I
said
think.
that. It's so interesting you said that because in my head, I'm going, is that what makes the early years hard? Is because we're trying to conform to a way of living that we were living before. Maybe not, but most people are. And trying to live up to what we see on social media or other families and trying to like make our families as typical as possible. Is
Yeah,
that what makes it hard? And I'm just like, I'm having a mind blown moment because I'm like, yeah, that'd probably be
yeah,
what was it. We had therapists come in and say, like, oh yeah, do you want to work on having him sit down at the table? My kids barely sit at the table. Sometimes they do, but my kids will eat more food if they're on the run. And
yeah,
I mean, some people will say that's probably bad parenting, but I think if they're eating more food and I know they're going to be safe about it, I don't care.
yeah, yeah. And I think for me, when I reflect on a lot of things, like, I grew up a certain way and my parents were, compared to other people's parents, they're really easygoing, people, certain things they were strict about. But, I think you grow up with an idea of what a parent should look like or what a family should look like from your upbringing. And then, for me, being an undiagnosed autistic person, masking and trying so hard to be like what everyone expects you to be, like what you should be, that flowed onto my parenting, where I thought, well, this is what families do. So if our family's not doing that, I'm failing somehow. Like that's on me as a person, because I'm not doing, or I'm not keeping up to what other people can do. So yeah, that's like a lot of unlearning for me too, as yeah, that self-blame, and to being in early childhood for so long before having children. You come across those judgments from other educators on specific things that families do, and you see different types of families, and you kind of create your own idea on what you think family life should look like. So then when it comes up to doing it and it's not working the way my head thought that it should be like, it was like, how do I get there? Like I'm failing because it's not looking the way it should. And then unlearning all that. And then once you have unlearned it, it's just, yeah, it's a completely different experience when you've,
Yeah, and
yeah, I look at,
sorry.
no, you're right.
The videos I see on Instagram, like social media, I've seen videos of like, this is what my family, like the benefits of my family being screen free, or the benefits of my family sitting down at the dinner table together. Like, obviously, that makes a lot of families feel guilty and bad about the way that they do things. And I know that there's no ill intent of those videos, but like for a family like ours, we have screens in front of food, and that's how my kids eat. They won't
Yeah,
eat if there's no screen. Like I think those videos often sort of manipulate people into thinking that that's the way that they should be doing things, when every
yeah.
family is different.
I wrote a Substack article the other day when I was just thinking about, this topic actually. And I just wrote an article about how our dinner times are these days, which are, everyone sits in their own room, mainly, especially me these days, because I'm eating a different food to what the kids are. I'm trying to look after myself, so I'm trying to introduce more of those vegetables and stuff that I was missing out on because I was just eating whatever I was cooking the kids, nuggets and chips. So now I'm introduced all that to myself. I can't be around the children eating my food because 2 out of 4 of my kids will literally gag to the point they're going to vomit if they smell my food. So I want them to eat and enjoy their dinner. So I move out. Anyway, yeah, I read a full article on that. And then I jumped on Instagram not long after I posted it. And I don't know if it's, Instagram watching, but
Listening
something
to
come up
you.
on my, yeah, listening
Yeah.
and, the algorithm and things, but it come up on my news feed, this video, and I can't remember who did it, but it was like a research project where they asked parents who they would invite for dinner, like who they would have at their table for dinner. And then they asked, did you see that one? And then they
Didn't
asked the
watch it.
children, and the parents were picking like celebrities and, people that they would love to have a conversation with. And the kids were picking parents. And the whole thing around that was like, there should be more meal times together as families because, kids are lacking that, blah, blah, blah. And I was just looking at that through a different lens, thinking, my God, if I wasn't at the point I am right now in my parenting journey and I was looking at that in the early days, I would have felt so guilty and down on myself that we weren't having those family times and feeling like I was failing. But now I look at it, I'm like, my kids do not want to have a conversation while they're eating dinner.
What I
Maybe
was
about their
going to
special
say,
interest.
they didn't ask any, obviously didn't ask any neurodivergent children
Yes,
in that interview,
yes,
because
that's
I'm
another thing.
sure my kids would not. I
Yeah, some of our
mean,
kids can't sit with people to eat. You
no.
know, if they have people sitting on, I know for my kids when they're at school, one of my boys had to sit on his own to eat because he's self-conscious of people watching him eat, or, the sounds of other people eating and that kind of thing, that busy environment in the playground.
Hmm.
So, it's not a one size fits all, and these things that society drum into us on how things should look like, they look like that in a neurotypical world, but it's not like that for everybody. And it's really hard to get your head around that, I think, in the early days anyway.
Yeah, and
When
like
you
and it kind of goes back on like those types of videos and those types of research, whatever they are, like those sort of push parents to be in that space more in the earlier days of like we should be trying to get them to do things like a typical family. And it's such a hard time. And now I'm thinking back, it was probably more to do with me trying to get them to do typical things than their disability itself. Like I think, yeah, it's kind of like a mind blown moment. But I think that if you're listening to this, it's kind of a very pivotal point in my acceptance journey, I guess. Mine, I can't speak for my kids, but my own, of really letting go of those societal expectations and living life to make my family happy. Because isn't that the
Yeah.
goal? Like we all just want to be happy. And like there was just meltdowns and there was screaming and crying, and why would we want that? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't serve anyone. So yeah, I
And
don't
since homeschooling for me too, like I've started to look at everything in a completely different light. And I even take it so far back to thinking like, they say we're from like caveman days and, even early indigenous culture and things like that. We did not have dinner tables. We did not have chairs. We didn't have schools and like all this stuff that society has built.
know.
Like this isn't our natural biological way of living. This is what society has built. And who's built that? Like this is man-made stuff. And we're trying to change ourselves to suit this standard. You strip it all back and get right back to basics of, not sure if you're familiar, Jess, of the hierarchy of needs, the self, that pyramid, what's it? Oh,
I don't think
just
I
had a
know.
mind blank. But yeah, there's a pyramid based in psychology. The bottom layer is your basic needs, food, water, sleep. Next tier is shelter, and it goes up. And the things that we're striving for are right at that tip of that pyramid. And that's what's stressful because you can't get to the top of that pyramid without them bottom foundations. And
Mm,
so if you strip all that back and go back to the bottom foundations of the food, the sleep, all that kind of stuff, and just concentrate on them and what can I do to make sure that this is happening in our family? Like I know sleep's a big one for people. And when the kids were at school, we were always like, oh, you got to sleep in your beds because we want everyone to have a good night's sleep and you got to sleep. And now we're just kind of relaxed because, we don't have anywhere to like we don't have to get up the next morning, whatever. And the kids are just sleeping wherever they want to sleep
mhm.
and they're sleeping better. And I've just got rid of that whole expectation that kids should be in their own rooms. I don't even know why I had that expectation, but that's just what families, do you know what I mean? Like it's all these things that we get told.
Going
Yeah.
back to what you said before, like go back in time, they didn't have separate rooms. It's
Yes, everyone slept at the same room. Exactly. Exactly. Um,
I thought I put a poll out on our Instagram, the Spectrum Connection Instagram, and I asked everyone what they do differently and what they do to suit their family's needs. And I thought we could read a few out, maybe talk about them. Obviously, the first one, like I said before, was everything, and I agree with it. Everything is different. And then someone else said endless half days at school.
mhm,
They're obviously going through something similar to school can't. I love that.
mhm.
School can't. The other one is no dining table, just an indoor, big sensory toys like trampoline, wobble board, and fitball. Isn't that interesting? I've never even thought about getting rid of the dining table. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, watch out, family.
I,
After this episode, that dining table's out the front for free.
Jordan, my husband, he
Yeah,
always says this about me. I'm always moving things around and getting rid of things. Like that's just my
yeah,
personality. I don't know if that's a neurodivergent thing, but I think it's like I just get sick of it. And so
yeah.
and so one day I'll have like the couch flipped up on its side. I'm like, okay, we're moving the couch out now. And he's like, okay. And and I'm like, no, I've got that thought about the dining table. No, we actually do use the dining table, but not for food as much as Jacob stands on it to do his bubbles. Jazz does, she loves art, so she does art on there. But yeah, it's definitely used, so I won't be getting rid of it. Jordan, don't worry.
I'm really contemplating getting rid of our dining chairs
Okay.
and putting like them spinny chairs in.
Oh yeah.
But I just feel like, I don't know. I'm on the edge because we do have one of them spinny chairs, computer chair things. The kids love, they all fight over it. It's supposed to be mine in my room, but it's out and wherever it ends up when the kids. And we've got wood floors, and you hear that noise constantly going across, like that just
Mm.
slowly drives me a little bit batty. So I don't know. I don't know. But yeah.
You get like swivel stools. I've seen them in schools and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I think I need something stationary to swivel, not with wheels, I think is what we
Yeah,
need.
I think these stools, I've seen them in Jazz's classroom. They're like a stool, like a regular stool, but the seat swivels. So they can
Wheels, okay.
swivel in their seat, but it doesn't move on the floor, which might be good for you
Yeah,
guys.
because we mainly use our table for activities. It's not really for food. I mean, I put the food on there, but it doesn't stay there.
No one
People
eats up there.
choose where they want and take it traveling.
That's interesting that someone said they have a trampoline in their house because I've heard of a few people having big trampolines in their house, and I
Oh,
think
yeah,
so.
we have one of them little ones, but
Mm.
yeah, it doesn't get much use. I don't think it gives enough input. Like, I think it's too, compared to the couch anyway, it doesn't give enough resistance.
Yeah.
The couch is better, but I'm trying. It's a brand new couch, and I'm like, this is why I knew we shouldn't have got a brand new couch, but the husband's
Yeah.
insisted. That's okay. Okay. It's
We've
just,
said to each other nothing new until the kids are out of the house.
yeah, we'd
Which
gone through so many couches, like marketplace finds that
yeah.
lasted like a few months, and I tried the bean bags, and that was great for a while until they busted, and I
Oh
had to clean up them
no.
little things, and then that was, yeah, we tried all the things, but
I think I've seen people have like this is obviously if you're privileged enough to have a big house. I've seen people
yeah,
have like their lower area, sorry, their lower area has a big trampoline in it. I'm like, that is cool. Like
wow.
obviously I think it might be like in America where like half the year there's snow and stuff, so they can't use the trampoline. So it'd be good to have it inside.
I've seen those indoor climbing frames, and I'm like, maybe I could do half the lounge room in that, but I don't know. We don't have much space in this house either. Like, it's a big house, it's a 5 bedroom house, but it's just the way it's designed. It's not, yeah, not a lot of space to put things in, which is hard.
Yeah. Someone else said screen time at dinner. Dinner
Hmm.
wherever she wants to eat it, and she's the boss of the house. Aren't they all? Aren't our kids all the bosses of the house? Yeah, no, my kids travel with their food. I do try really hard to get them to not eat. I try not eat on the couches and stuff, just because like
Yeah,
we eat a lot of pasta and there's sauce, and I'm like, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
try my best to get them not to. But to be honest, Jacob, and people might think this is defiance, and I don't know what it is, but he just won't like listen to if I say go sit on the table, like he may go, but sometimes he's just like, I'm just gonna get my plate and go in my room. Like
Fruit.
he doesn't say that because he's non-speaking, but he'll just go. And so I'm like, to be honest, it's just not worth it. Like,
Worth it. And I find like these things, if you do it a couple of times, like if you ask a couple of times and then make a point of, come back to the table, that kind of thing. You do that once or twice for, I'm guessing, I mean, I again haven't had neurotypical children, so I don't know, but I'm guessing for a neurotypical child, if you've done that a couple of times, they would get like, okay, this is what the expectation is. I'm going to do that, but you know, it doesn't serve the purpose for them taking the food.
yeah.
Like they can do that, but if you're constantly at your child to do something, then and they not doing it, then it means that whatever they're doing is serving a purpose for them,
Mm.
and so you're just kind of wasting time, everyone's time, by repeating yourself and causing stress that doesn't need to be there. Getting
Yeah, it's
down to
not
the
hurting
the reason.
anyone.
Yeah, he might be eating in his room because he needs that sensory, you know,
Yeah.
sensory experience away from everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't bother, but like as long as it's like not hurting anyone, why not? Like it's
Yeah. Yeah.
no.
And my thing too is like I want my kids to find out now what works for them for when they become an adult. I don't want to be putting in all these boundaries, rules, whatever you want to call them, to the point that they can't experiment with what might work for them. Like if I and yeah, and they didn't have an opportunity to go and sit in their room and see if that works for them, or to watch something and see if they can regulate enough to eat. If I took all that away, then, I feel like when they become adults, like they're going to be masking or putting these expectations on themselves and thinking like, what's wrong with me? Why do I not want to do whatever? Does that make sense?
It
I'm trying
does.
to
Yeah.
word.
No, it
Yeah.
does. I think it's excellent, like to learn. Like I think our generation of kids, like our kids, are going to be learning more ways to cope and to regulate themselves and to just find peace and happiness in themselves so they can use that when they're older. I think a lot of us in our generation, we were forced into some kind of societal expectation, and now we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves.
Yep.
The other day, I found myself taking a photo of our family because we were all sitting at the table. And I'm like, quick, take a photo. This doesn't happen. And then I'm like, why am I celebrating that? It's just like, I don't know, just like
Yeah.
that background that's like, oh, this is the thing to do. Like this is the
Yeah.
goal, but it's not. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. And as adults, we have so much freedom in what we choose. Like if you work out that I'm just using an example from my son, he likes to sit by himself to eat. If he hadn't worked that out, but then when he become an adult, like still, yeah, I'm trying to explain it. Like he's worked out early that he eats best or can eat better when he's not around other people. And like I'm just thinking as an adult, he becomes an adult, he could think to himself eventually could have worked that out that he doesn't go to restaurants or yeah. I've lost track of do you know where I'm getting at? I've
I
lost track
do.
of what it is.
I think if I lived in a house by myself, like if I lived alone, I wouldn't be eating at the dining table.
Table.
Uh,
Yes. That's
I would be
yeah.
eating, I don't know if this sounds really, I'm gonna say it. I would be eating on my bed. I don't
Yeah.
make a mess. Don't worry. I don't know if I should have said that. I think that's the way that I would feel most comfortable eating, and I would eat like relaxed and everything. I think sitting at a table is a nightmare for me, but I do it anyway because of the way that I was brought up. So I get
Yeah.
what you mean, what you're saying. Like you don't want him to have that internal pressure to have to do something that makes him uncomfortable. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
the next one, someone said they don't eat out, and we
Yeah.
rarely.
We rarely eat out too.
Macca's is probably the only eater, and we go through the drive-through. Yeah. I mean, our local support group goes to a pub, but it's like the outdoor area, and the kids barely eat anything. Like, it's actually funny. You come into our support group and you'll see lots of like hot chips plates everywhere. It's like that's just all they'll eat. But yeah, no, like I think it takes a while to be able to go to a place and them like the food even, like,
Yeah.
hard. My son never wears shoes and it helps his transitions. Yep. My son never wears shoes. He hasn't worn shoes in 6 months, and it's something that like I keep thinking in my head. I'm like, should we be working on this? And then I'm like, but he doesn't mind. The only thing that I kind of worry about is the hot pavement when it's
Yeah.
like one of those really hot days. But he doesn't seem to mind. I know he's got like tough feet now because you. The next one, we're prepared to leave an event if my son isn't coping. His needs come first.
Yeah.
And that's probably something that we did earlier on that made it challenging, is that we just would stay at events past the time of like comfortability for us.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to someone about this, and they were like, oh, like an hour is an ideal time for our family. And to a typical family for an event like Christmas, it's like, oh no, you've got to like have lunch, and then you got to have presents, and then you got to do all these games and all these things. And it's like they plan they plan the way they go to events around the meal time. So they're relying heavily on these family members to have the meal at 12 o'clock or whenever it is. And when that is thrown off is when it all goes downhill. Yeah. The last one was bringing a packed lunch to a restaurant. to suit my child. Yeah. I think most restaurants would be okay with that as long as you kind of explain that you're not doing it because you don't want to buy their food. And obviously you would buy their food. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think of like all the little we did Christmas once at a club, like all you can eat type thing. And my first thought after, like before going there, was like, oh my goodness, you know, clubs have dress codes. Well, my eldest son wears a hat 24/7, like it's attached to his head. You would think it's glued. It never comes off, only to go to sleep. And I was like, oh my God, they don't allow you to wear hats inside there. So I called ahead and explained the situation, and the lady was great on the desk, like, fine, he can wear his hat, don't worry. I'll let the staff know that day. The message didn't get to every staff, so we had like people coming up telling him to take his hat off. Poor child. And I was like, no, no, he's not taking his hat off. And they kind of looked at me like, and I kind of made a scene, and he was like embarrassed. But yeah, these things that, you know, society expectations.
Yeah.
Why, like, we have this thing still about hat to root inside or whatever that is, you know. Same thing when he was at school, they used to tell him to take it off in the classroom too. I'm like, it's like his safety blanket. He feels more regulated and can do things with his hat on. So I advocate for him to have his hat on. But again, it's just that, you know, who made that rule? Where did that come from? Like 19 something or other, 17 something.
Rule
And we've
that's
still
never
got,
been changed or updated, like to suit
yeah, yeah.
times.
You just question everything, I think. Like,
I,
why is that a
I
thing?
so I question that with shoes for Jacob because he's fine now. He's young and he walks around shops with no shoes on. But then I know certain shops have codes or like policies where you can't have no shoes on. So I'm like, in the future, when he gets pulled up, is he not going to be able to go into shops because of it? Like I don't know. Like I've seen videos of people going barefoot into shops and being told to leave. So it's just like, I don't know. Is that okay? Like,
Yeah, I know. Brings up
especially
a
if you
whole new thing.
can't wear them. Like you can't
Yeah,
wear them. Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a lot of things that we do that are different. And I think it is like I think I would advise families just to see what makes your kids happy and what's the most regulated state they'll be in and
yeah,
go go by their lead, I feel
yeah.
like.
Because like mental health is still health, right? So like you want to look after all health needs as a basis. Mental health is part of that. And
Mm.
yeah,
Stress is a big thing that impacts your health. And so like yeah, if you sit them at the table, they might eat their healthy food and get their nutrients that way. But is the stress going to do some damage to them as well? So like, it all like you all have to just toss things up as a family and see what's really important and what's um
yeah.
so yeah. This was a fun one. I liked this conversation. I think we said that we wanted to do, I mean, I guess it's not fun. I don't want to talk about being fun, but it's less serious than other topics. Like we talked about school
Yeah,
and things like that. I think it's important to bring in topics where, you know, we're smiling and it's like, fun. I say fun.
yeah, yeah. I say fun too.
So yeah, that is episode 5. That's
5, yeah, I
crazy.
think. Yeah.
That's crazy. And I'm going to start getting awkward now because it's the outro and
It's
I
the
don't know what
end.
to say.
Say goodbye until next time.
Bye, everyone.